So, Charles, first of all, thank you so much for joining us for this interview today. And maybe we can start off with you telling us a little bit about what you do at Beck.
Yeah, thanks, Natalie, and thanks for having me here. Appreciate it. So, yeah, what I focus on at Becht is really leading our global operations, keeping our teams focused on delivering solutions for clients around the globe. We have 13 different divisions covering all the technical disciplines needed for continuous manufacturing. So, just staying aligned and multidisciplinary in what we're offering.
Right. And, just out of curiosity, what does a typical day in your role look like? And, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges of your specific role?
Yeah, a typical day really starts off by mapping out what's going to really be important for keeping everyone focused on delivering solutions for our clients, how we can remove hurdles from our folks out in the field, how we can remove barriers for delivering the solutions. So thinking of just helping them out with that engagement and staying focused and not distracting them with kind of additionally unnecessary corporate initiatives. So being concise with that focus is probably the main task of my day, and then just things that come up, whether it's within the company or issues that come up from our clients, and just kind of firefighting and helping out there.
Of course. And, when we're talking about your clients and the issues that they're facing, especially in this changing industry, what are some of the trends or observations that you've made over the past, I don't know, 5 years or so?
Well, yeah, our clients are in a very difficult position. This is going to be part of the presentation, that I'll be making in 2 weeks from now. So this transition is going to be quite expensive in terms of capital requirements for producing more carbon, reducing the carbon intensity of the facilities, reducing the carbon intensity of the feed, being able to co-process some of that feed, uh, while simultaneously having to embark on that capital-intensive journey. They also have a loss of talent. There's a lot of turnover, loss of experience, and then they're also facing a lot of uncertainty in the regulation and the regulatory environment. Some of the discussions in Europe about cross-border carbon adjustments and those type of things are there's a lot of uncertainty there, that it makes it difficult to make large investments given the uncertainty.
Right. And in addressing these uncertainties, could you tell us a little bit about what BECT does? And if there are any solutions that you offer that, maybe help to ease the challenges.
Yeah, well, the focus, I mean, in terms of the regulatory uncertainty, it's really coming up with options for some of the unit modifications or greenfield projects where they're going to be able to be multi-purpose, whether you're looking at, renewable diesel or SAF, having some flexibility in the future, understanding that the timelines of the different products, some are going to be longer than others, and so you want that unit to still be relevant 10, 15 years from now, just not just 5 years from now. Also, I mean, really our main focus though is helping um, get our clients engineers up to speed faster. As they onboard new folks, they have a lot of turnover. They still have a need for deep expertise. And so how can we link some of the experts we have on our team to the more junior engineers out there in our client organizations, so they can be more effective on tackling these challenges?
Right. Let's talk a little bit more about the regulations that you've previously mentioned and how they pose a bit of a challenge. I would assume that, the regulatory frameworks that we're looking at in Europe would differ quite strongly from that in the ASEAN region. Could you tell me a little bit about that and, maybe some of the differences that you've observed?
Yeah, well, certainly Europe is going in stronger with more of the penalties in terms of having carbon tax and other things, and so there's cost for having carbon emissions. The challenge though is they still haven't quite ironed out the cross-border adjustments where so if you have a small refinery in Europe, they pay these penalties, but if they import products from, for instance, perhaps an Asian refinery or others around the world, the same doesn't apply. And so it makes it challenging for some of the refineries in Europe. But I think in Asia, it's a little more varied, right? Country to country, there's not so much a uniform approach to the regulatory environment, obviously being such a large region.
Right. And in terms of manpower, I think that's a bit of an issue that we're seeing regardless of geographical location. What are some of the aspects that you think have been contributing to this manpower issue?
Well, I think the industry through the 80s, early 90s was a bit depressed in some ways, and so there wasn't a lot of hiring. So you have a kind of a U-shaped curve of talent, and we're just seeing a lot of folks retiring, and there's not a lot of talent coming in behind them. And so I think in some countries, right, in Asia, there is a large pool of younger talent, but they need to get up to speed. The technologies are quite complex, and the stakes and the risks are quite high. And so, that's going to be the challenge.
And of course, uh, even with all these issues that we're talking about, there's still the overarching question of sustainability and digital transformation that we're talking about.
Well, yeah, I mean, the sustainability, if you think about it too, that plays into how do you attract talent? There's some of the younger talent that might be available. Are they concerned about the industry being here 10, 15, 20, 25 years from now? And do they want to embark on a career? So that probably couples in with the workforce issues that a lot of people are facing, how to attract the motivated talent. Which also plays into digitalization in some ways, because I think a lot of our clients are looking at, can digital transformation help bolster productivity of a smaller workforce, perhaps?
Right, right. Do you have any anecdotes about this that you might be able to share with us?
Anecdotes on what specific,
Yeah. So, as in terms of the changing workforce and in bringing in a younger, workforce itself and the challenges that come with it in terms of needing to upskill or reskill, do you have any stories about this that you could share with us?
yeah, well, we had just a very minor example. There was uh, some inspection folks in a refinery in Vietnam that they took one of our API 571 damage mechanism courses, which is it's how to identify damage in the field. And one of the feedback they provided was that now they feel much better prepared to plan for the turnaround, plan for the inspections, plan for what to do if you find damage. And so just like having a comfort of being able to tackle challenges, it doesn't mean that they have the complete answer, right? A part of training is really getting you to that 70% level. And then when you come across things that you don't quite understand how to deal with, you know who to reach out to, you know what experts to network with. And so I think that's where the training comes in. It's not that they can do everything, but they can do most of it.
I see. Well, that's quite an interesting viewpoint to look at. Looking back at 2023, what do you think have been some of the biggest changes that the industry has had to go through?
Well, I mean, 2023, I mean, in general, the industry has had very high margins, and so there's been a lot of cash generation, but there's not been a lot of certainty provided with the regulations. So I think there's a lot of large projects out there, and then, but they haven't quite, really authorized them yet. And then I mean, obviously, inflation and the rising cost of capital and interest rates has now made it even more difficult to authorize these very large, expensive projects that are dependent on regulations that are not finalized. And so it's created just an interesting space where a lot of cash is being generated, but it's not necessarily being deployed, given the cost of capital and the uncertainty.
Do you think this uncertainty is going to continue to grow in the next coming years, and where do you think it's going to come to a head?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be country by country dependent, and so I mean, as some countries come together and embark on international treaties that could provide some certainty. But if countries don't end up doing that, you're going to have individual countries choosing to prioritize maintaining facilities for national security reasons and national energy concerns. Um, as you see, for instance, there's the two refineries still active in Australia. Australia doesn't want to lose access to domestic fuel supply. So I mean, if the international community doesn't come around to a common set of rules, you're probably going to see individual countries prioritizing maintaining these facilities.
I see. And do you think this is a trend that we're going to uh, observe in the next coming years?
Yeah, well, I think it's hard right now for um, you know the international community to really agree on a common set of rules. So yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily see a breakthrough and a consistent set of regulations in the short term.
Right. Just looking to the future, what plans does Beck have for the future? Are you able to share any of that with us?
Yeah, so it really plays in to the trends with the workforce. So we really try to focus on being a full central engineering partner for our clients as there's a decrease in expert pool within our client organizations due to retirements and other changes. But also, so it's not only gathering all the expertise and then trying to have it presented in different ways, whether it's quick access to experts or perhaps creating best practice documents, given multiple different backgrounds from different owner operators. How can we weave together all those experiences into a pretty concise, practical best practice document? It's also though about, with the digital transformation is how do we make certain tasks easier for the engineers so that you potentially could operate some of these facilities with smaller workforces is if people are, the things that can be automated do become automated, right? So helping out with some of that.
I see. And I think the final question that I have is that we're certainly very excited to see you in 2 weeks at the Asian Downstream Summit in Singapore. So do tell us, what can we expect to see or hear from you at the conference this year?
Yeah, well, I'm really excited to be there as well. It'll be a fun trip out there. What I will be really talking about is some of these trends that we've just discussed over the last 15 minutes or so in terms of the challenges our clients are facing. And really, what I want to focus on is empowering employees. It's a people industry, this industry, and to the extent that a company has a motivated, inspired, and aligned workforce, they're going to be able to tackle the challenges better than their competitors. And so, how can we promote that kind of alignment? Is what I'll be talking about.
I see. Thank you very much for sharing that. I think that about comes to the end of all the questions that I have for you. But do you have any other things that you'd like to share with us?
No, I think I'm just excited to come out to Singapore and visit and meet everyone and discuss these important topics.
Of course. Thank you very much once again for your time.
Thank you, Natalie. Take care.